Meeting to order. May we have roll call, please?
Mayor Reichel,
Here.
Pro Tem Knott,
Here.
Trustee Bretnall,
Here.
Trustee Flores,
Here.
Trustee Hanrahan,
Here.
Trustee Poston,
Here.
Trustee Seifert.
Here.
All right. May we all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. All right. Be seated. The first item on tonight's agenda is public comments. Persons desiring to make a public comment on items not on the agenda, please activate the raised hand function in the meeting program. Or did we have anybody sign in?
No, sir.
No? Okay. Do we have any text, or not text, do we have any phone calls or emails in regards to non-agenda items?
I did not hear from anyone today, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
I do not show any raised hands, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. We will move on to the next agenda item, which is the consent agenda, which contains the minutes of the April 11th, 2022 Board of Trustees meeting and the Volunteer of the Year Award presentation to Nevaeh Williams. And I'd like to pause if we can before we do the approval of this to do the presentation
That's great.
to Nevaeh for work. So if you just want to step up here to the front table. The town of Silt would like to recognize Nevaeh Williams for all her hard work and dedication through our volunteer program. Nevaeh started her journey with the town during 2020 and has since became instrumental in helping events and recreation sports run smoothly. Nevaeh's efforts are greatly appreciated, and her phenomenal leadership is a testament to her community-oriented character. As we look back at her volunteer accomplishments, Nevaeh has assisted in events such as the Main Street Trick or Treat, Family Fall Fest, Easter egg hunt, as well as taking on the role of our famously funny Easter Bunny for the last 2 years. Nevaeh has also coached several seasons of microsoccer. The town receives such positive feedback about how the players love being on her team, as Nevaeh equals fun in all that she does. The town would also like to acknowledge not only her academic accomplishments, but to congratulate her on receiving the esteemed honor of being awarded the Daniel Scholarship. The town will miss Nevaeh's contagious smile at the events and sports this upcoming year, but we wish her all the best as she pursues her future endeavors at George Fox University this fall. Job well done, Nevaeh. The town thanks you for your dedication and hard work.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Can I get a quick picture with her in front of you guys and all of you guys
Yes.
standing up?
Yeah.
That would be great.
You said you weren't taking a picture.
Yes. This is not just a me picture. This is an us picture.
Okay. One, two, three, cheese. Thank you.
All right.
Nice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thanks, Nevaeh. Good job.
Thanks, Nevaeh.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda, which included the minutes of the April 11th, 2022 Board of Trustees meeting and the Volunteer of the Year Award presented to Nevaeh Williams.
A second?
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Knott to approve the consent agenda as presented, seconded by Trustee Poston. All's in favor?
Aye.
All's opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Do any board members have any conflicts of interest with any agenda items tonight?
None here. None here.
I've got none. Do we have any agenda changes tonight? From staff or the board?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to give a quick update during administrator and staff comments on the sale of the Main Street lot.
Okay. We can do that. All right. Anything from the board?
Nothing here.
Agenda? All right. We will move on to the next agenda item, the second reading of ordinance number 8, series 2022, An ordinance of the Town of Silt, Colorado granting a gas and electric franchise to Public Service Company of Colorado. And I will turn this over to Administrator Lehman and Attorney Detkinger.
I'm going to turn it immediately over to Joey and ask Brad to come on up if you'd like.
Certainly.
Brad with Excel.
Thank you, Mayor and Trustees. Before you tonight, and I apologize for it was just a duplication of the same memo as the first reading in the packet, but before you tonight is the second reading of ordinance number 8, series of 2022, which is an ordinance, as you heard last meeting, granting a gas and electric franchise to Public Service Company of Colorado doing business as Xcel Energy to the town of Silt. And the ordinance and the substance of the text of the agreement remains the same as what you reviewed on first reading. And I'm happy to provide a few updates in response to your questions about poll attachments from first reading if you'd like. Before I do so, I'll also turn it over to our Xcel representative, Mr. Brad McLeod, for any additional comments he might have on this item.
I just thank you for the opportunity for the second reading tonight. I wanted to make sure I came here in person and got to see you. And Jeff and I were talking on the way up. It was worth a good drive up the valley too. So it was. I'm happy to see you folks.
Do you have any additional questions, or should I just provide some information on poll attachments?
Yeah, I think get right to that.
Okay, great. So after our last meeting, I reached out to Xcel and asked a little bit more about the particular sections of the agreement that govern the use of company electric distribution poles and other poles. And there are some specific tariff provisions that apply to these issues, and the relevant tariff provides that posters, banners, placards, radio or television aerials, or other objects can't be attached to poles of the company, including streetlight poles, unless the company provides written approval under the street lighting section within these tariffs. And that is also what the franchise agreement itself provides. The town can use the poles, but has to notify the company, and it can do so for public safety and other purposes. And if it's going to use the poles to attach the poles to do other things, it has to enter into an agreement with Xcel to do so. And then for third-party use of poles, it's the same thing. The third party, whether that's like a commercial entity or another entity, has to go to Xcel and essentially execute an agreement. And Xcel's attorney provided some additional context that Xcel regularly negotiates agreements for third-party attachments to these poles. And typically these are things provided to like cable television providers, telecommunication companies, and internet service providers. And basically after an outside company executes what's called a joint use agreement with the company, then attachments are permitted on those terms. And those companies typically have to agree to safety requirements, they have to be insured, and they have to also provide proof to Xcel that they have the town's permission to use those facilities in the public right-of-way where applicable. So this is definitely something that the company does, and there are standards governing it in both the agreement and the tariffs. And the facilities management team within Xcel handles these kinds of requests, and so I'm in contact with both Brad and Fran, Xcel's attorney, and we can have that team's information on file should the town ever want to go out and attach to those poles or work with a third-party entity that wants to do so. So that's the update there. Any additional questions on that front, or?
I'm good. You answered all my questions.
That was great. Good, thank you.
We spent a little bit of time on it. Jolie did a fantastic job, by the way.
I think, thank you. So,
All right, I think that covers it. Is
Yeah.
there any discussion by the board? This is a public hearing, so. Any further discussion?
None from me.
Okay.
Good.
The time is now 7:11 PM, and I will open up the public hearing in regards to the second reading of ordinance number 8, series 2022. Persons desiring to make a comment on this agenda item shall activate the raised hand function in the meeting program. Or do we have anybody here in the public that would like to speak towards this agenda item? Okay. Did we have any phone calls or emails in regards to this agenda item?
No, we didn't, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
I show no raised hands.
Thank you. The time is now 7:12 PM, and I will close the public hearing, open up to further discussion by the board or a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the second reading of ordinance number 8, series 2022 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by trustee Seifert to approve the second reading of ordinance number 8, series 2022, seconded by trustee Brittenall. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Brad, for joining us these last two
thanks,
meetings.
Brad.
Thank you, guys, I appreciate it.
Appreciate you being here, yeah.
It's easy money, huh?
Like I said, I enjoyed the drive, so it's good. Thanks, have a great evening.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for coming over. We'll see you next time. 15 years.
On my birthday, too.
There you go.
That's funny.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the March 2022 financial report, and I will turn this over to Treasurer Tucker.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was not ready. I thought that was gonna go quicker. I apologize. Or slower, actually. So, for the month of March, 25% of the year has elapsed. We are doing very well with our sales tax. We're at 30%. Our use tax, we're at 35%, so we're well above where we thought we would be in our anticipated revenues. As far as taxes go, for general fund revenues, we're right where we were thinking we were going to be. We're ahead on the conservation, a little ahead on the water, wastewater. Haven't quite made our 25% yet in the irrigation fund. Victims assistance, beautification, park construction, and economic development, we're all above. Silt housing, we are below, and that's just because we're normally a month or two behind for when they actually give us the rental. And we are doing fairly well on our budgeted expenses. We are a little high on the irrigation fund, but we just finished up the 7th Street grant that we were doing, and so we paid out quite a bit of money for that. So it should even out by the end of the year. And then the Victims Assistance Fund is the same thing, just all of our expenses are happening all at once, at one time, but we're within the budget. I'll answer any questions you may have.
Amy, I have just a really quick question, and
Yes.
maybe just some like board follow-up maybe for some folks. So on our investments that we have, so we have the 3 accounts that are in CSAFE and the 3 accounts that are in the Colorado Trust. Are those the 6 accounts that we decided to put into that intergovernmental investment program instead of having that money parked in like one account that we did before? Or are those different than what I'm thinking about?
So we've always had the Colorado Trust accounts. The
Okay.
the CSAFE ones are different. They're
So
new.
those are the 3, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And we did that really just to kind of diversify where we had some of our liquid cash, if you will.
Yes, and at the time that we moved them, the interest rates were much better than A and B where
Yeah.
we had it
And is
previously.
that still the same now as far as the interest rates there versus A and B?
The interest rates are higher than A and B, but not as good as they were when we moved it there. But they're coming back up, so
Got it.
I
Okay.
anticipate that we'll be doing better with our interest off of those accounts.
Okay. Thanks, Amy.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other questions for Amy?
No questions?
All right. Thank you very much, Amy.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the swearing in and seating of newly elected mayor and trustees. And there's no presenter on here, so. There's Sheila.
She is.
Ask and you shall receive.
Sheila.
Not too far.
I'll just sit.
Yes, please stay.
Yes.
Yes.
I think we're ready.
We're ready.
Okay.
I state your name.
I, Keith Reichel,
Do affirm that I will support
do affirm that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and of the state of Colorado
and of the state of Colorado
and the laws and the, and the charter and ordinances of the town of Silt,
and the charter and ordinances of the town of Silt,
and will faithfully perform the duties
and will faithfully perform the duties
of the office of mayor
of the office of mayor
upon which I'm about to enter
upon which I am about to enter
and to the best of my ability.
and to the best of my ability. All right. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And we are going to have Cindy Siebert swear in her husband tonight.
Awesome.
You're going to read the resolution. The time that I served them.
I state your name.
I, Gerald Seifert,
Do affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States.
do affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
And the state of Colorado.
and the state of Colorado
And the laws of the state of Colorado.
and the laws of the state of Colorado
And the charters and ordinance of the town of Silt.
and the charters and ordinance of the town of Silt.
And will faithfully perform the duties of the office of trustees.
And will faithfully perform the duties of the office of trustee,
Upon which I am about to enter and to the best of my ability.
which I'm about to enter to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, Jerry.
I state your name.
I, Samuel Flores,
Do affirm that I will support
do affirm that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Colorado
and the state of Colorado
and the laws of the state of Colorado
and the laws of the state of Colorado
and the charter and ordinances of the town of Silt,
and the charter and ordinance of the town of Silt.
and will faithfully perform the duties
I'll faithfully perform the duties
of the office of trustee
of the office of trustees
upon which I'm about to enter
upon which I'm about to enter
and to the best of my ability.
and to the best of my ability.
Congratulations, Sam.
While I'm here.
Just in line. The convenience.
That's right. I state your name.
I, Derek Hanrahan,
Do affirm that I will support
do affirm that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Colorado
and the state of Colorado
and the laws of the state of Colorado
and the laws of the state of Colorado
and the charter and ordinances of the town of Silt,
and the charter and ordinances of the town of Silt,
and will faithfully perform the duties
and will faithfully perform the duties
of the office of trustee
of the office of trustee
upon which I'm about to enter
upon which I am about to enter
and to the best of my ability.
and to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations, Derek. So congratulations.
Have an awesome election.
Step on up.
Come on up. You're the next contestant.
What he's won, Joe. I state your name.
I, Christopher Patrick Klassen,
Do affirm that I will support
do affirm that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Colorado
and the state of Colorado
and the laws of the state of Colorado
and the laws of the state of Colorado
and the charter and ordinances of the town of Silt,
and the charter and ordinances of the town of Silt.
and will faithfully perform the duties
I will faithfully perform the duties
of the office of trustee
of the office of trustee
upon which I'm about to enter
upon which I'm about to enter
to the best of my ability.
and to the best of my ability.
Nice job.
Mr. Mayor, could we get a group picture?
Yeah. Do we need to sign these right now?
Should, maybe do Andrea first.
Her name down.
Do we need to, Sheila, should we sign these right now?
Just before the end of the night.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So we want to do our picture first? Or do the Proclamation, okay.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
think that's a good idea.
Okay. We're going to jump ahead real quick, and then we'll go back to where we were. So, let's see. Yeah, because it's part of the consent agenda, but I'll just.
I can do it.
However.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve Resolution Number 10, Series 2022, a resolution expressing the appreciation of the Board of Trustees for the services of Andrea Poston as a trustee of the town of Silt.
Second.
All right. We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Not to approve the resolution number 10, series 2022 as presented, seconded by trustee Brittenall. All's in favor?
Aye.
All's opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank
If
you,
you'd
board.
like to come up here?
Nope.
You don't get to leave yet. All right.
Trying to run out of here.
Okay, so, Town of Silt Resolution Number 10, Series of 2022. A resolution expressing the appreciation of the Board of Trustees for the service of Andrea Poston as a trustee of the Town of Silt. Whereas, Andrea Poston served as a trustee of the Town of Silt until April 25th, 2022. And whereas, Andrea Poston was appointed as trustee on February 8th, 2019 and April 7th, 2020. And whereas, Andrea Poston has served as a trustee with diligence and loyalty and has made a significant and lasting contribution to the town capacity. And whereas, Andrea Poston will be missed by this board and residents of the town of Silt. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of the town of Silt, Colorado as follows. The sincere thanks of the Board of Trustees and residents of the town of Silt are extended to Andrea Poston for her service to the town. Andrea Poston is wished the very best of success and happiness in her future endeavors. This resolution shall be spread at large in the minutes of this meeting, and a certified copy thereof shall be delivered to the said Andrea Poston. Introduced, read, passed, and adopted at a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the town of Silt, Colorado, on April 25th, on the 25th day of April 2022.
Thank
So,
you.
thank you very much. It's been a pleasure serving you.
Perfect.
All right.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you very much for everything.
Thanks,
Yes.
Andrea.
Pleasure working with you.
Okay. Come on in.
It's good? Which one should we look at?
Just look between them both.
Look between both of them, smile.
Were my eyes closed? Thank you, Andrea.
Thanks, Andrea. So we can just knock that one out of the consent agenda?
Yeah.
Like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, did we make a nomination for pro tem, or did I miss that when I was walking back?
We did not. We skipped down to the proclamation. Now we're going back up.
Gotcha.
All right. So the next item on the agenda is the nomination of Mayor Pro Tem. Anybody like to make a recommendation or nominate themselves? I will nominate
Yeah.
our current Mayor Pro Tem not to continue serving
Second.
in that capacity, so.
Thank you.
And I'll second.
Okay. We've got a motion by Mayor Reichel to nominate trustee Knott as the Mayor Pro Tem, seconded by trustee Flores. All's in favor?
Aye.
All's opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, guys.
Job.
Appreciate it. Thank
Keep up
you.
the good work.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. So the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, which contains resolution number 11, series 2022, a resolution of the Board of Trustees appointing Michael Sawyer as a municipal attorney of the town of Silt, Colorado.
Well, I think Michael Sawyer does a good job as our town attorney.
I agree with that.
I agree too.
I just have one point of clarification. Would we actually be nominating Michael Sawyer or your firm you work for?
I think it would be Michael Sawyer, and, because I'm your town attorney.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve Resolution Number 11, Series 2022, a resolution of the Board of Trustees appointing Michael Sawyer as the municipal attorney of the town of Silt, Colorado.
Second.
All right. Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Knott to appoint or approve the resolution number 11, series 2022. Seconded by Trustee Britnall. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thanks, Michael.
Yes. Thank you for everything.
Just make sure you wear the right color shirt.
Yes.
Talked about
Get that
that
tonight
tonight.
now.
Don't like your shirt.
Next item on the agenda is the first reading of ordinance number 7, series 2022, an ordinance of the town of Silt, Colorado, making changes to section 17.42.055, the site plan review, section 17.78.040, the special use permit, creating and describing an open space OS zone district as part of sections 17.12.010 and 17.12.020 and section 16.16.020 public hearing notices in the Silt Municipal Code, Town of Silt, Colorado. And I will turn this over to Planner Chain.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the first reading, as the mayor indicated, for these code changes. And this is the first set of code changes that we'll be bringing to you this year. We think these are pretty important, especially with creating an open space district and defining what it is. Sheila, can you make me the co-pilot here? And that memo and this outline of the ordinance itself really tells you what everything is. Site plan review process, and by the way, we talked about these about 6 or 8 weeks ago. First one that I and the Planning Commission thinks it is important to have the site plan review in front of the Planning Commission as a public hearing. Sometimes they're pretty simple. Sometimes they're pretty complicated. You get a lot like you have in the Budget Painted Pastures, which is now River Trace, or if that Rislenda or Divide Creek project is approved, those can be pretty substantial. It also asks that the approval of the site plan review is good for 1 year, and then you can get 2 6-month extensions. The whole point of that is someone gets in and someone can go and get their building permit pretty quickly. Okay, well, okay, Sheila, you'll have to, I just can't, I don't have control here, but anyway, that's fine. And that is important because in some places, such as the Silt Trade Center, the setbacks are flexible, and you want to make sure that someone can come in and build, and that even lets you go to the lot line under certain cases, as long as you have a 10-foot building setback. Special use permit, we've asked that there be a public hearing in front of the Planning Commission in addition to the Board of Trustees. And that's because sometimes special use permits, once again, they can be simple or they can be very complicated. Nothing can be as frustrating for a board if there is a very complicated project, there's no hearing in front of the Planning Commission, and it's a pretty simple review. And then it gets to the board and people come out of the woodwork with some concerns or questions that some people hadn't thought of, and it gets complicated. And the question to staff is always, well, how the Planning Commission resolve this? And there's no hearing in front of the Planning Commission and the public's not there. They won't know some of the issues that the neighbors and residents have. And then last but not least, there's 2 sections in the code, which is updated to add an open space district. That's in 17.12.010. And then it also defines it. That adds a paragraph to that also. What I did in this particular case for this agenda item, I also put strike-through versions of the code so you can see what was added to it. And those are underlined and highlighted in yellow. And there was nothing stricken from the old code sections. So that's actually pretty simple. With that, I'm open for questions. As I said, I think the most important thing we have here is creating an open space zone district for the town, because in the past, you have indicated if something is open space, it has a public utility or a PU designation. And while that can be fine in some cases, that's really more for the cities that have some type of infrastructure in it, or a pump, or it could even be a town hall if you wanted. So I think it's good to separate and make sure open space is open space. And if there's some kind of public infrastructure, that also has a different designation. And with that, I'm open to questions. Oh, excuse me, the Planning Commission does recommend that you approve this ordinance and the changes to the individual code sections.
Planning Chain, I've got just a really quick question. Maybe we can discuss this. So with the idea of adding a public hearing in section C in front of the Planning Commission for the site plan review process, from an overall standpoint, how much more time does that add to the applicant's timeline before they can basically go from beginning to end of being approved? Is that 2 weeks? Is that 4 weeks? Because the Planning Commission.
Sometimes it's none, because it's good to have an application close to a month before there's a Planning Commission meeting.
Okay.
And there's usually plenty of time to make that public hearing notification. Occasionally, if someone's pushing the envelope, there may not be enough time to do both, but it doesn't have to add any additional time.
Okay. And I suppose maybe just from a board standpoint, I know you come from the Planning Commission, so why do we want to do that again? And add that step for them to go to the Planning Commission versus just coming to the board with a site plan review?
I think so we're not blindsided by misinformation or
Okay.
is that right?
Well,
Understanding.
if I could clarify, first of all, site plan review only goes in front of the Planning Commission. It does not go to the Board of Trustees unless there is an appeal.
Okay,
That can be an
okay.
appeal of an individual condition,
Okay.
or it can be an appeal of the entire decision. For example, the Planning Commission says no. And so in that case, site plan review, the Planning Commission is the decision-making body.
Okay, yep.
Special use permit, it was, if you don't have the hearing in front of the commission, then it's a pretty complicated issue. You don't get their input. And sometimes, we think something is pretty easy, we're used to it, and all of a sudden there are neighbors there and they have some concerns. And sometimes if you live in that neighborhood, you see things that staff may not know. So it's,
I
think
get that.
good to have that step where the public also is notified in front of the Planning Commission. It gives a better review.
Yeah.
If it's a complicated project.
I got it. Okay, that's fine. Anything else?
I'm just wondering how the special use permit process will work. If they go to the Planning Commission, which they don't do now, and they deny a special use permit, then is the board looking at that as a new application, or are we a secondary board?
No, with the special use permit, the board is the decision-making body, but the Planning Commission goes and reviews it and recommends to you.
Okay, so they're not going to approve or deny the special use permit. They're going to come to us with a recommendation.
Yes. So nothing changes.
No, we don't.
What is different is that the public within 200 feet will be notified there's a special use permit, so they have a chance to chime in and review the application.
Yep.
So that process could potentially take someone longer if they have to do a P&Z meeting and a Board of Trustees meeting.
Yeah. And
it doesn't really have to be longer at all. I mean, the best projects are when staff has 3 or 4 weeks to review them, write the staff report. So if you always want someone to submit an application a month before it goes to that particular board. So in theory, it doesn't need to go and add extra time.
Okay.
Trustees and Planner Chain, may I ask a question?
Yeah.
Just to clarify, so currently, in the code, the special use permit already goes to Planning and Zoning Commission, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, we're just adding the
Public hearing.
requirement for there to be a public hearing at that meeting.
Correct.
Okay, so it's not necessarily adding an additional
Extra
step,
step.
it's just
No.
changing
It's
what
not an
happens.
extra step.
Okay,
It's just that we need to have the application, make sure it is complete, and then we can put the notice in the newspaper and make sure that the applicant gets the notice for the mailing.
Got it. And then another question, Planner Chain, just for, being like clear and concise. So, overall in our zoning, so like where's the hard line benefit of having something zoned specifically open space versus that public utility? So does that specifically mean that it's, well, anyway, you can answer that question, I guess. Maybe you can go from there, and why we're making that specification versus what it is now.
Well, theoretically, any of the parcels you have designated as public utilities, some of them are used truly as parks. But the town could go and just put a town hall there. They could put a utility station there, a new major water pump or water treatment system. Where if it's open space, especially if it comes in with part of a development plan, that's supposed to be some kind of active recreation area, such as a soccer field or a couple tennis courts or basketball court, or it may be a passive area.
Yeah.
So it basically, if something comes in as a development and it's supposed to be open space, well, there's a thought that it should stay open space. Because right now, anything that's open space but is designated PU, public utility, the town could go and use it for another, in another capacity.
Yeah.
And sometimes that okay, but if you usually talk to people in the neighborhood, if they see something as open space, they would like it to stay open space.
Yeah, I got that. And I wonder if this maybe even like jumps forward, but we're going to talk about the adoption of the Parks, Rec, and Culture Master Plan. Does making that zoning distinction to open space impact our Parks Master Plan to identify what then is zoned as open space and could potentially be a park?
It could. I mean, what I think it does is it gives it more definition. Is something is park and open space and it's identified as such. It's probably a good thought that it should stay that.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
All right. Any other questions, comments by the board?
The only comment I have is when we were discussing this is I kind of almost didn't feel it was fair to the applicant to have to be required to do 2 public hearings, because then they have to pay to notice twice and so forth. And that was my only, comment.
Yeah. How much is that?
Planner Chain, how much? I forget, to be honest.
Postage for 200 people, or within 200 feet.
Yeah.
It's with 200 feet, so it's a certified mailing. So it's depending on how big the notice is, they go anywhere from $3.50 to $6 a letter. And sometimes you have a lot of people within 200 feet. Other time there's just 4 or 5, 6 or 7. The big cost usually for public hearing notices is the legal description. And sometimes they're very brief. They're published in the newspaper. You get a very complicated one, it can be a couple pages, and that can be a few $100s for a public hearing notice.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a pretty good point, Chris. I kind of look at it from both sides the added cost to the applicant, but then again, I think the point brought up of, I think especially with a special use permit and giving public notice to those folks, I think is really important. You know, on the site plan review, you know, if it doesn't require a special use permit and it's a use by right, you know, I could probably be swayed either way on that one. But I, you know, definitely on the special use permit in my opinion, so.
Okay, I'm just
All
trying
right,
to,
well,
I'm just thinking
I
in my
could
head
have been
about.
swayed, but I'm not being swayed, so.
I'm just thinking about how much, you know, if you're downtown, you have 200, you know, that 200-foot circle, you could be mailing out a couple hundred letters at $3 to $6 a piece.
You could.
Oh, it's never a couple hundred, maybe if there was a massive, massive condominium project. But I'm someone, you know, I also work on the, in the private sector, so I see this on both sides, where I have to do certified mailings. And it's pretty tedious, but most times in a very, very dense area, maybe you're doing 35, 40, 20. Sometimes you do 5. It all depends where you are.
Okay.
I mean, I think I would go back to the idea of it just, I think it's okay. I would much rather err on the side of noticing, you know, the surrounding neighbors of what might be happening than not, you know. And I suppose if you're going through that process, you know, it's just, I don't know.
It's just a cost that you got to pay.
I suppose, yeah. I mean, I hate to hear myself say that, but I think I would want to be noticed, I suppose, especially if I was, you know, looking at, again, I go back to the special use permit, but, you know, because imagine if you were within that 200 feet and, you know, some use came up next to where you're going to be and you were just not noticed about it, and just, if you don't pay that close attention to what's happening, I'd be a little bummed, I suppose.
For sure.
You know, so.
Yeah. I think I'm all good with the way it's written.
Yeah, I think so.
I am too.
This is a public hearing. If we have no more comments from the board, then I'll open it up to the public. Okay, the time is now 7:43 PM, and I will open up the public hearing in regards to ordinance number 7, series 2022. Persons desiring to make a public comment on this agenda item, please activate the raised hand function in the meeting program. Or Sheila, do we have any phone calls or emails in regards to this agenda item?
No, I did not hear from anyone today.
Okay,
I do not have any raised hands.
thank you. And we have nobody here from the public, I think, to speak on this, so the time is now 7:43 PM, and I will close the public hearing in regards to ordinance number 7, series 2022. Open up to further discussion by the board or a motion.
Yeah, no discussion here, anybody?
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance number 7, series 2022 as presented.
I'll second.
Okay. We got a motion by trustee Seifert to approve ordinance number 7, series 2022 as presented, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Knott. All is in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All is opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Chain.
Mr. Mayor, we discussed with Jeff that the remainder of the agenda doesn't have a particularly legal element to it, so we'll excuse ourselves.
Okay,
Okay.
sounds good. Thank
So
you, guys.
Good night, thank you.
Drive safely.
Yes.
See you, Joey, thanks. See ya. See you, Mike.
Okay, the next item then on the agenda is resolution number 9, series 2022. A resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Silt, Colorado, approving the amended final plat of Stony Ridge PUD, recorded as reception number 628670 for lots 68A, 68B, 69A, 83A, 83B, 84A, 84B, 85A, and 85B. All in Phase 2 of the Stony Ridge PUD final plat in the Town of Silt, Colorado. And we have a continuance to May 9th, 2022, requested by staff. Turns over to Planner Chain if he's got anything to add. Or
Ironically, talking about public hearing requirements, No, there was a glitch in the public hearing, and in this case, no extra time will pass because the applicant had not finished making changes from the hearing in front of the Planning Commission. So, but as someone who's been dealing with these things for too many years, once a year there's a glitch in a public hearing notice. So we wish to continue, and I hope this is the last one that will happen this year.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to continue the public hearing for resolution number 9, series 2022 to May 9th, 2022.
I'll second.
All right. We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Knott to continue to May 9th, 2022, resolution number 9, series of 2022, seconded by Trustee Clausen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next up is the adoption of the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Master Plan, and I will turn this over to Administrator Lehman.
Let's talk about something really fun for a little bit, huh?
Yeah.
Thanks very much. So we have met as the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Master Plan Subcommittee, or not, yeah, Master Planning Subcommittee a few times over the last few months. And then we also presented this plan with the consultants back on November 8th. And so we've been just unfortunately distracted a few times by things not at all related to this and kind of got off track, but we need to get back on track. So that's, we're back tonight to talk about that, adopting the master plan. It's important for us to adopt the master plan. Probably most importantly because we want to go to the Board of County Commissioners and ask for the money from the Conservation Trust Fund that was sort of earmarked, softly earmarked for the Coleridge Trail, which of course we got our hearts broken on earlier this year. But we think most of that money is still there, and we'd like to, and we think it's still viable for the taking by the town of Silt. So we want to present them with a new plan. Before I talk any about those numbers, though, I wanted to talk briefly about the amendments that the subcommittee discussed and recommended to the board prior to its adoption. And it's on page 2 of your memo. In those amendments, the things we talked about, one was the acquisition of the use of the Roy Moore Gymnasium and Parkland. There is sort of a notation on page 73 of the master plan that discusses kind of recreation centers and buildings and so forth. But we think we should probably put add a sentence to it that would say, well, one phrase, providing for the construction or acquisition. And then the last sentence there, the Garfield County RE2 school district's Roy Moore Gym and a gymnasium and adjacent land should be considered for this use, and efforts should be made for the town to assess and acquire it when available. So we would add that. And then we wanted to recommend putting a note in there to make it possible to acquire the west side of Silt Island. You'll remember last year we, gosh, now it might have been 2020 when we went over and did a little tour over there, when we were hot to trot on seeing if we could make a deal there. But the sentence we would add then to the master plan, the town will closely monitor the status of the west side of Silt Island for opportunities to purchase, potentially with others, such as Aspen Valley Land Trust, and preserve for future generations. And then the next bullet point is mentioning the Coleridge Trail. because we do anticipate that sometime in the world's future, we will be able to make that happen. In the master plan, it says coordinate and construct a regional path system. We'd like to amend that to say to support a regional path system such as LOVA trail efforts. That, again, in an effort to make it easier to get grants in the future, and especially if we were to partner with LOVA. And then finally, as it relates to the baseball field improvements, to add a sentence, add a whole section basically in there. The Stony Ridge Ballpark baseball field will be improved to allow older participant use. This should include the addition of 50/70 and if feasible 60/90 configurations. In case anybody's unfamiliar with that, that refers to the distance between home plate and the mound at 50 or 60. Maybe it should say 60.5, right? And then the base paths, 70 feet and 90 feet configurations. May be necessary to modify outfield fence and recreation path location and/or design to accommodate the 60/90 configuration. So those would be the things we would add into the master plan, and we would do that probably next week in the actual master plan itself, so that we can go to the Board of County Commissioners as soon as we get on their agenda. Any questions on any of those points at all?
No.
Anything you need to add, subtract, multiply, divide? Okay. Any questions at all on the rest of the master plan? Anything we can
Just
answer?
a quick question, this temporary structure at Veterans Park Stage, what are we talking temporary? I mean, it says here structural elevation.
Jerry, if we could wait for just a second.
Oh, okay.
That's the priority spending plan. That's not actually in the master plan.
Oh,
This is really in your budget, but I did want to talk to you about that. That's why it's part of the packet here. But it's not something you need to approve tonight, because you've already approved most of this spending in the budget. We're really talking about the master plan itself. So anything in the master plan before I'd ask you to adopt it.
Was I getting too specific regarding like the open space designation on some of this stuff to be put in the master plan, or no?
No, I think we could think about that.
Not that I want to delay approving
Yeah, I
this,
think what
because
I would suggest is we adopt the master plan and
we
then amend it to include open space. You know, we can have a little bit more of a conversation about that, so
When we have more, once that passes, and
information.
there's more places designated as open space to have them in there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I
have
mean,
it in- I
it's
think-
probably a sentence that says something like, parks that because there are some parks that we may want to decommission.
And just make it
So we
open
don't
space.
want to, well, we might want to do something else with them.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You know, I don't know.
Oh,
You know, we're
right,
talking-
yeah.
So, and I don't want to create any panic, but I mean, there were certain really underperforming parks that we might want to
Yeah.
do something else with. So
Got it.
it's probably not something we want to talk too much about tonight, but the parks, the bigger parks, the ones that are well-used, we probably want to, I would think we might want to change those to open space. We might want to put something in the master plan that kind of creates that as a goal.
Yeah, okay,
So no, it's not a bad idea.
all right. That it?
I think that's it.
That's all I have.
Yep. Everyone okay with it?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Good.
We will need a motion to adopt it.
I got it.
Please.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adopt the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Master Plan with the added amendments that are on the second page of our notice.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion to adopt the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Master Plan with the amendments on page 2 of our packet presentation. That motion was made by Mayor Pro Tem Knott, seconded by Trustee Flores. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, so to finish that thought, and I'm sorry, Jerry, I should have pointed out that I wanted to talk briefly about this, separate from the adoption. This is the list that I would be bringing to, with a cover letter, of course, bringing to the Board of County Commissioners, asking them to support our parks improvement plans. I don't know how much of this they'll be inclined to help with. I think I've been told that they've got roughly $200,000 in Conservation Trust funds that they could release to the town. I've been told that it's Silt's turn, so, we'll keep our fingers crossed, but I'll just go and make that presentation to them. I believe that in our conversations with the subcommittee, this was the priorities, and in the budget process, this is kind of the detailed priorities that we had come up with. I think, between Trey and I, we've probably added some, put a little more meat on the bones here and there. So if we need to talk about anything on here, we certainly can. But, and I did want to throw it out tonight for any conversation that you all might have on it.
Well, I think,
Well, why don't I go through it? Is that,
yeah, or
Go ahead,
should we
Charlie.
address maybe what Jerry was talking about? I think when we actually just sort of discussed it before, I don't know that we actually came up really what that temporary
oh,
structure was gonna
Oh, I
be,
mean, I was just curious.
right? I mean, we could chat about that first, I guess.
sure,
and,
yeah. Let me talk, I'll kind of start that off, and Trey can chime in, because he's got, probably, he understands that building more than I do. We were looking at that as, first of all, its utility. I mean, it's used mostly probably for storage, because it's got a water spigot. That might be about it. Inside, I've not seen it used on the gazebo, the top part, for a band in my 4 years here. It probably has been used that way before, but I think, might need more electricity to be properly used. Plus, we're concerned about the structure and the maintenance of the building. I think there's a movement sort of to use Veterans Park more for smaller type events, like the farmer's market. We're gonna have it in Veterans Park this year at the recommendation and the urging of our vendors, because it was so hot, so windy. And when it rained, everybody, and wind and the hurricanes came through, it kind of blew people away. So the thinking is that Veterans Park is certainly going to be better for cooling.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just going to do a really good job of marketing it, and having the guy with the sign standing out on Main Street, to get people to swing by there.
You've been practicing?
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Just watching that guy on TV. But the idea was to replace that so that it's more usable all the time. There's even some conversation about maybe putting actual restrooms kind of on one side of it. There's a whole, I mean, I don't want to get into designing the thing tonight, but the idea was to get rid of it, because it's going to require some maintenance. If it doesn't require maintenance right now, it will soon, certainly painting. Why not, get rid of it now if it really needs to go? We've had some folks in the community express some concern about it, so maybe we need to consider having some kind of public conversation about, whether and when we do this. I don't think anybody here is hell-bent to get rid of it, but it's certainly seems like there might be a better option for that street corner. So that's kind of where we are. The temporary structure was my idea, was if the thing is dangerous, we should probably get rid of it sooner than later. And what I was saying is we just put a redwood deck on top of it for now, for this summer, so that you can still have, music or singers or, whatever. We'd have a place for them that they would actually use. Keep the electricity, keep the gas, I guess that's about it. Keep the porta potties there for now while we figure out what we're gonna do to design something new. Trey pointed out that if we did something like that, we're likely to have just a big mud hole underneath it because the building actually keeps water from going in there. So that's probably not my plan was probably not the best plan. So I think it's still kind of a work in progress. The $25,000 there is really for, and that might be a little high, but for kind of structural evaluation, demolition if that needs to happen, and then some kind of community effort to design a new structure.
That kitchen's not in there anymore, is it? Or is that still in there?
No,
And is that pit still outside, or did we ever fill that in?
that pit's been filled in.
Is it? I know we used it with the pig roast. We didn't use the pit, but I know the building we did, but.
And, I mean, my thought was just, skip the temporary structure and just go right into the new building.
And that's what I was getting at, is if we were gonna spend, if we skip, we're not using it now, instead of spending money on temporary, just take that money and put it into the new one and be done with it, lose another year, so what, we're not using it anyhow, so. That's why I was just curious what it was. So.
Yeah, the only reason I was thinking we would want to move a little quicker is just if there's some danger to the building, and I don't think we really know that for sure.
Not 100%.
I mean, we have that pull behind stage, don't we, can put over there if we need to, or then we have a temporary
The
stage?
trailer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, for the band or whatever to do that, and.
So so we could take it down and fill in the hole and have something there, is what
Yeah,
you're
then
suggesting.
we just use
Yeah.
the pull behind and then work on, taking that money into something new and. So.
And for heydays, we use the the pull behind
Right,
stage
so-
anyway.
That's why I was asking, if
Because
the
we had
kitchen's not even
concerns-
there no more anyhow,
There's
so that's all
concerns
that was
about the
ever.
safety of it, so we didn't want people up on there. And that was last year, so.
Yeah. I just want to make sure before we tear it down, we have a budget to build something back.
We don't want it to just end up as nothing
Is
there.
it dig a hole, knock it down, and then we have to pave streets instead of building back a gazebo. So until that money's there, I don't want to tear it down. I think if we tear it down without a plan to fix it, then
Takes longer to do it?
to tear it down and then, yeah.
Well,
Oh,
that's what I
yeah,
mean, like the whole process
Yeah.
is just longer,
Just longer.
drawn out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with the mayor on that.
So I guess the first thing is you have to figure out what the structural integrity of the thing is, right? So,
Well, and we probably have spent a little money on that.
On that,
Yeah.
yeah.
But we can certainly do it, and then the question becomes if it's structurally sound, I guess we can cross that bridge when we
We get
come
there,
to
yeah.
it, but
Yeah.
then do we replace it? There's always, I suppose and we could, if we get a structural engineer in there to look at it, or when we do, we could ask about modifying it
Oh, yeah.
somehow, maybe make it a shorter stage, something that people would actually use instead of that, 8 feet, 10 feet in the air?
Yeah.
Something like that.
And I envision a mini Stony Ridge version stage built down there.
yeah, at an angle, right? Like facing the park kind of
Yeah.
thing? Yeah. But, guess it'd be nice to know how good that thing really is, huh?
Okay,
All right.
well, we'll work on the structural evaluation and come back and talk with you about it.
Cool.
And then is all the playground fall protection like a Sursa thing? They don't like what we have, or?
Well, it's a practical thing. Pea gravel is not fall protection. So the fall protection that we're proposing, I don't know, I suppose it's close to the best out there, right?
Yeah. It's a soft surface, and yeah, Surface is not big on the pea gravel because the maintenance with it, and we got to be out there like every 2 months with a rototiller fluffing it up because it gets packed down.
Yeah.
And then the other problems we have with the pea gravel, it ends up everywhere.
Right.
In the drains, in the grass,
That's
and
yeah.
everywhere. And then also that this new soft surface will also start making some of the playgrounds more ADA available.
Okay.
I guess one thing I remember when you had that sample that you showed me or us, but so what's the what's the life expectancy on that stuff? Do they give you that?
Yes,
10,
they did,
15?
and I want to say it was 30,
Oh, yeah.
25, 30 years. I'll have to double check on
Boy.
that for you.
I,
But I
I'm
can't-
I'm a big advocate of that stuff compared to
That
the
mat?
pea gravel. Yeah, it's
I
like
have
that
the-
fluffy,
Yeah.
I have a
soft.
sample.
Kind of a
Yeah.
cord type.
We'll grab it.
Yeah.
Just from a practical sense, you know, in Mesa View, they have a ton of pea gravel, and we've done like a neighborhood block party, you know, and my God, that stuff's everywhere. Like kids take it, I don't know what they do with it, but it is in the grass. Like it just ends up everywhere.
everywhere.
It's a nightmare. So
Ends up in your washer.
just yeah. Well, and then I think too, it's like all of it in the grass, and then you got these guys running out there with their mowers, and it's dinging up the blades, or it's shooting a rock into a house, or
Yeah.
you know whatever.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. No, that's nice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But
oh,
they
and it
come
all
in-
interlocks.
It interlocks, and they come in 2 foot by 2 foot, so that one doesn't have very much give to it
Yeah.
because it's such a small
It's just-
sample.
Uh huh. And if somebody damages it, you can pop one out pretty easily, right?
And put a new one in.
Okay.
And from the research I've done on it, they haven't had much problems with. I talked to like 4 different cities that have that in, and they haven't had much vandalization.
This stuff's at a park that we go to a lot in Eagle, you know, that park right in the middle, and it's awesome.
No, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Clean.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Well, I've seen that before.
Yeah.
It's some pretty good stuff.
Yeah. So that would be really great if we could get the 200, because I think, well, at least on here with number 4, the 163, I know we budgeted to replace that anyway, so that's I don't remember how much of all that's actually in our budget for this year, but I think at least half of that, right?
We put 165, I believe, in the budget. to
Oh, okay,
cover
so at least for the Eagles View part.
the Eagles View.
So I mean, if you get that plus, I mean, geez, then we're right there. And if you look at that list, I think that those are pretty, like, significant and like immediately impactful upgrades to our parks and like the most used parks. And I think specifically the path around the Flying Eagle Park would be awesome. The fall protection, it's fantastic.
What do you have to do to prepare to put that on?
You just have to, we'll have to dig out the fall protections that's there. And that one I think is a 2-inch, and depending on the height of your equipment and the fall height, that'll come anywhere from 1.5 to 5 inches thick. So once you know what size you need, you got to clear it out, pour a concrete base, and then that sticks to the concrete base.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right. Yeah, it looks a lot better. There's a park up by Highland and Rifle that's got like a foam mat to it that is completely trashed. It took maybe 2 years for it to be destroyed, and you can tell where they tried to patch it, and the colors don't match, and the texture doesn't match. It looks horrible.
Where is that one?
And then Rifle, like Highland Elementary, I don't know. It's just west of the school.
Can't be that stuff.
It doesn't feel like that stuff.
Yeah.
It feels like a sleeping mat. Is what it feels like. Yeah.
Jeez.
Um,
All right.
Yeah.
That might be, is that, I wonder if that's that poured in place stuff
It could be, yeah.
Yeah, they have some of that. It's almost like an epoxy. You mix up and pour it out in place and squeegee it off.
touch base with Rifle to see if, make sure it's not the same stuff.
Not
but
the same stuff, yeah.
What you're describing doesn't sound like it.
Yeah, it doesn't look the same.
And I don't think it is, because I asked him if anybody close to us was using that, and he
All right.
didn't mention it anyway.
So, I think, yeah, you bring up a good point. The Flying Eagle Park improvements, that wouldn't be, I don't think that would be covered by the current year's budget. But, so when, if we fast forward and the county commissioners say they'll give us, that's just for lack of a better number, give us $200,000, then we would probably come back to you at some point and do a supplemental to do that 129 on there. I'll double check that. I should have thought of that when I was putting these numbers together, and I did not. We didn't budget for the Flying Eagle, I don't think.
No, all we budgeted for was Eagles View.
Yeah.
The 160, we budgeted 165.
Yeah, so we'll come back at some point after we know how much we're getting from them. And this is, I guess this would be the best scenario here. But we'll come back and talk about it if we are successful.
All right.
That's all I have.
That's all you have on that one? Okay. The next item is the administrator and staff comments, and this is where you wanted to talk about the sale of the property at.
Yeah, just real briefly, I'll tell you, I just wanted to give you a couple of, some information that's could be publicly disclosed. North Point has accepted our counteroffer on the 22nd. So you'll recall, 22nd of April. So you'll recall that within 30 days, they need to disclose to the seller, us, the name of that national retail tenant. And that will be May 23rd. And also the type of retail, what kind of retail goods and services that they will be selling, and that it is subject to the town's retail sales tax.
So they haven't disclosed who it is yet? They haven't told us who it is yet?
I don't have that information. We haven't had anything formal, we haven't had anything at all.
Okay.
I'm aware of. I think our Realtor knows, but he's not.
He won't tell us.
He's not saying.
Well, he's not under, yeah.
Then we have a couple of real estate things about due diligence and off-record title and things like that. The next big thing that I'm most interested in is within 20 days of the execution of the contract, that they disclose the fully executed lease agreement with the national retail tenant. You'll remember the people buying the lot are different than the people who are gonna operate the store that's on the lot. So they're gonna have a lease, and we're gonna get to see that lease within 120 days, which will be August 22nd. And then closing date is October 17th, and within 180 days, they must commence construction. That would be April 17th of 2023, so about a year from now. If their representative is correct, they'll move a lot faster than that.
That was his plan, was almost building this fall, not next spring, not this time next year.
So I would expect that things would, I would really expect we'd hear from them this week, some kind of a, you know, filing. If it's a national chain, it's probably a relatively cookie cutter kind
Yeah,
of building.
they can do some of those quick.
So hopefully they'll be starting to move that process forward pretty quick. With closing on October 17th, I would think they'd want to be ready to get something going right after that.
Okay.
That's all I had on that. Anything else? I want to remind you all that, go ahead.
I was just gonna maybe just make a mention, you probably would anyway, but if you do hear from either Joe or that company and find out who that retail tenant is, maybe you could just shoot us all an email to let us
sure.
know, as opposed to maybe waiting until the next meeting, so.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. I will do that.
And is there, and I forgot to ask this when we did the contract, once we know that tenant, does the town have a non-disclosure to the public on that, or will it be public information at that
I
time?
would think it'd be public information.
Okay.
Unless he changed it.
I remember seeing
don't
anything
really
about
see
that or hearing
Anything
about
to us
that.
about that, so.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I'll be careful to make sure that that's the case before we talk about that. I don't know off the top of my head, and I don't have
I don't remember seeing anything in the contract, but,
I don't think there's anything prohibits it.
okay.
All right.
And the last thing I wanted to mention was next Monday night, we have our hopefully our final strategic planning session. Monday, May 2nd, 5:30 to 9 o'clock. Town Center. And I will send you I got the documents last week from Dana, and we'll get those out in time for a packet probably Thursday this week.
Cool.
Sounds good.
It's going to be mostly about prioritizing everything that you identified as being important last time.
Good.
That's all I have.
All right.
Any other staff comments?
Yeah, I have one. We're looking at June 3rd. That's our first movie in the night. Movie in the park night, sorry. But also on that night, we are looking with Roxall and KLJ from 6 to 8 at the town center to have an open house on the preliminary designs and sketches for the pedestrian bike overpass. And then at 8 o'clock, we was going to set up a booth at Movie in the Park to try to catch some people with some handouts and stuff too also that night. I will have more.
Good idea.
I will have more information as we get closer, but I just thought I would put that out there now.
Cool. That is a good idea.
It's still early and a little bit cool, but are we gonna work this year with the mosquito company to spray before we do Movie in the Park?
Yes, I will get with them.
Okay. All right. Any other staff updates? Okay. We'll then jump into updates from the board and board comments, and we'll start with Trustee Hanrahan.
I just have a quick thank you to Nicole, the events team, Dusty, Chief Kite, all took part in the Easter egg hunt that went on up at the park Easter weekend. It was really great turnout. I think if that's a sign for how events are going to go this summer, we may need more volunteers. There were a lot of people, little and big people there.
Nice.
So props to them. They put a lot of work into it, and it went off very well.
Sounds like we need a bunny next year, huh?
Yeah. Who wants to be the bunny? Short straw?
There you go.
Perks of being the
We're gonna
mayor.
have to get
There
a
you go.
taller.
Mayor bunny. Mayor bunny.
Put him in the small costume.
Take a picture of that.
Yeah. All right. Trustee Flores?
I'd like to thank all the citizens that voted for the election. I appreciate the opportunity to do another 2 years, and I would like to encourage more people to to vote and to participate. Doesn't sound like the numbers don't match with our citizens in town. Yeah, thanks again.
All right, Trustee Britnell?
I did attend last Thursday. There's the Garfield County Weed Board had a meeting. One of the things, Trey, somebody will be contacting you probably about possibly doing our next meeting, doing like, they try to do a field trip type meeting, doing it over at the River Preserve, so we can see some of the stuff going on. And then they may talk to you about coordinating some stuff, because they have some volunteer hours that they have to do some stuff over at the Island Park, and then also at the preserve there too.
All right, Trustee Clausen?
I'd like to thank all the voters and citizens who voted for everybody up here. And yes, I'd have to agree with Trustee Flores. It'd be nice to have more participation, in things like that. And there are 2 vacancies open on the Planning and Zoning Commission right now. And I'm so glad to see Jeff back out here again. Just because it's been a long time.
Thank you.
And it would kind of be nice to see everybody out here again, just like how things were.
All right, Trustee Seifert?
Just want to thank all the staff for everything. It was a good chamber event the other day. It was really good. There's a lot of information came out from different towns. Kind of gives us some ideas where we're at or whatever, so it was good. I enjoyed that.
Mayor Protem?
Yeah. I would like to reinforce what Trustee Clausen just mentioned. I really also enjoy having our town administrator in person, our public works director in person. When our attorneys were here, it was great. So I would strongly encourage our entire staff that works during our town meetings to be present in person. And then I would also like to strongly encourage any of our outside contractors, presenters, et cetera, to come and do it in person. Unless they are not feeling well, then they can come and do it via Zoom. So I would much prefer that these meetings go back to the way they were pre-COVID as much as possible. So.
Yeah, thank you. The only thing I've got is, does anyone at this current time utilize the commercial kitchen at Town Center?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. All right.
And I think it's technically not certified yet as a commercial kitchen.
Okay. Can we find out what we need to do, since we spent a ton of money on that to make it a commercial
I
kitchen?
think we need a hood vent. I know for sure is one of the big ones.
Big ones.
Over the stove, and I don't remember what else.
Didn't one of the stoves need some work on?
Huh?
Didn't one of the stoves need some work on? I think when we did senior luncheon, she said one of the stoves or something needs work on.
I don't know for sure about
I think
the stove.
something about one of the stoves needs some work,
work.
I think.
Okay. All right. Other than that, I've got nothing. So, next item on the agenda is adjournment.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Motion by Mayor Pro Tem to end the meeting, adjournment, and seconded by Trustee Britnall. All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All's opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
All right.